Is it morning or is it good evening? I mean, I suppose it's morning, to be fair, because it's fucking 3:30 in the morning. And I've been trying to sleep since 1 a.m. and couldn't get to fucking sleep. So, here I am. Absolutely shit-faced right now. Let's put the kettle on. Let's try and get some caffeine in the blood. And maybe then I can actually deliver some semblance of a decent commentary. But of course you didn't come here to find out about my bad luck and my insomnia. No. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be about a particular video that Reverend Simon Sideways has put out. And I'm probably going to need a pack of these as well. Anyway, he has recently come out with a video, as far as his content is concerned, basically telling us that there are people who are doing investigative journalism, and our government is basically saying, you try to call us out, and we're going to turn the screw on you, and then basically push you into the mud. And that's a scary thought. Other than the fact that my hair is also this fucking wide. But hey ho, I digress. This will definitely be going after this video, mark my words. The fact that our government is basically threatening us that we must not expose the system or they will do everything they can to destroy us should send a shitload of red flags to every person that lives in this country. Because what it's telling us now is that we need to accept the state's status quo. Well, I'll tell you right now, that's not going to fucking happen with me. Because I am vehemently against this corrupt government. And quite frankly, what we need right now is a revolution. It's the cold, bitter truth. That pill that everyone has to swallow eventually. It's just a matter of you choose when you choose to have that pill. Because at the end of the day, this government will stop at nothing to get rid of old Whitey. And they will do it, whether it be by hook, by crook, by throwing the book, or sending us out to Russia to get shot and killed. I've already made my point pretty clear as far as where I stand as far as conscripting people is concerned. I'm not going over to Russia to fight against Russia, whether they're the best army in the world or the fucking worst. Because at the end of the day, they're not my enemy. I'll only consider them my enemy if they literally come in from the fucking shores, much like our illegal immigrant friends are doing, and are actually invading our country. And even then, I'd probably only do it if it was my house that was being threatened. I wish I could say if it was my family being threatened here. Well, technically, if my family are being threatened, then you bet your goddamn ass I am opening that fucking door and I am going over there to fight them. Because they are not fucking harming my family. And I know there were some people who joked about we don't need any more fucking, 400-pound bombs and what have you. Yeah, typical people these days, I suppose. Mind you, doesn't really hurt me all that much. And it's pretty fucking easy just to hide people who can't bring in constructive criticism or what have you. That's the thing. I may preach about freedom of speech, but people mistake that for thinking they're allowed to get away with basically talking a load of shit without any constructive argument to go with it. For example, if someone's just saying, look at you, you fat fuck, get back to the gym, guess what? Bye. But if someone says, I appreciate your content, you do this, blah, 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 but I think you should lose some weight, that's all fine, because at least they're offering critique and criticism and they're actually being constructive and what have you. But we're not here to discuss about that. We're here to discuss the fact that our government now wants to basically stop dissidents. And the way I look at it right now is that is tantamount to fascism. How ironic. What they consider the far right to be responsible for, and maybe they are, I don't know. But what I do know is that as of right now, we have a government that is also embracing this aspect of fascism, ironically under the guise of communism. Though I will say one thing, and unfortunately I don't have any fucking teaspoons, I can't bloody find the damn things, so I'm just going to have to use one of these fuck off great big tablespoons and just be very, very delicate. Anyway, the point is, they have been, ironically, the more fascistic group between lefties, the government, and the so-called far right. So, it begs the question, who are the real fascists here? I think I know what my money's on right now. But of course, mainstream media will not like to tell you that, because we all know they're a bunch of wankers as well. Let's see if I can do something about this. A bit better. Still a little bit iffy, but hey-ho. But back to the point. They basically want to go out of their way to screw you, the indigenous British person. Hell, there's even someone, which, if I can find the video again, because I know I saw it, but I'll be linking in the description below a video of somebody being arrested for waving the British flag. I'll just repeat that. Somebody was arrested, put into custody and everything, for waving the British flag. That's how fucked our country is right now. And it's very, very scary to think about that shit, let me tell you. Especially when you think about the number of illegals that are coming over to this country. And what I find ironic as well is that the army was trying to put out this fucking poster like, are your friends experiencing symptoms of having XRW or extreme right-wing views? I mean, you couldn't make this shit up. They have been failing spectacularly to get their recruitment numbers up in the army as well. So they are doing everything they can to basically try and get anybody in, any Tom, Dick and Harry. And there's a reason you don't do this. I've said it about the police back when I basically said about how, I think it was Life in a Ditch or something like that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he basically said that police had to be a certain height so that then you can see over a normal crowd, and so that you could wear one of those proper police helmets, and when they saw you, they respected you. And they knew exactly where you were as far as police was concerned, so they couldn't just go around nicking shit from any Tom, Dick and Harry. The same principle applies here for the army. Let me put two scenarios in front of you. As soon as I've opened this packet of biscuits and gotten to dunking this shit. Anyway, let me put two different scenarios in front of you, if I may. First and foremost, you have what I would consider a very normal scenario. So, you've got one recruitment process, or process if you want to be English. Anyway, there's this one process where basically people like me wouldn't stand a hope in hell's chance of getting in. There would be no shot that I'd be able to run the fucking assault courses and fucking climb over the walls, as it were, and get underneath the net. I'd probably get stuck underneath the fucking net, let's be honest. Like, and I can laugh about this, because I know deep down, if I were to try and get into the army right now, they would laugh me out of the barracks. literally. Because I am about as fit as a geriatric hippo. But I'm not afraid to admit that. But imagine a scenario where even people like me would be able to get into the army just to fulfill that quota, just because I ticked a fucking box. Because of my autism, let's say. And let me be frank, I'd never resort to using that shit to get anywhere. Because at the end of the day, I'd like to think I want to be some semblance of normal. But let's say they recruit me on the basis of my autism, rather than can I do the fucking job. Now that's one process. And they do that with all the different creeds and religions and all that shit. So if you tick a box for being black, if you tick a box for being a Muslim, if you tick a box for being a Sikh, if you tick a box for being a female, blah, blah, blah. Take that one recruitment process, which is currently failing miserably, by the way. Then you put in the other scenario, where instead of having this half-baked shit where you're accepting anybody, basically, don't worry, he'll get his comeuppance. Anyway, then I take this apart, if I can, and you have another broken biscuit. Fuck me. But anyway, put this into perspective. The other side has very strict recruitment. Have to be fit. Have to be a reasonable height. You can't be anybody who is gay or has their religion get in the way of taking orders, basically. And I'm not saying this just for clarity and a disclaimer. I'm not saying any of this for fucking racism and all that shit. But you have these people that come in this other recruitment process where you have to be fit. You have to be able to follow orders, because that's very, very important when you're on a battlefield. You need to be accurate as hell with a gun, so that when you are shooting at something, you're going to hit more often than not. Rather than be barely able to shoot the broadside of a fucking barn. Basically, my point is, you want the best army, not the most equality and diverse army. And here's the thing. Nigel Farage has actually put out a video as well, and there is a point in his video where he basically has like a little letter that is sent to the government, signed by all these very, very high-ranking soldiers, lieutenant generals I'm talking. And I'll link that in the description below as well, and I think it's around the end of the video-ish, maybe about 30-40 seconds away. Look at that letter. Pay very close attention, because even the fucking army puts an extremely strongly worded letter to the government, basically saying that this diversity and inclusion bollocks is destroying our country and the army. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know it's coming, because say it with me, folks, it doesn't suit the narrative. That's why they fear people like Nigel Farage. It's why they fear people like Tommy Robinson. It's why they fear people like Maya Toosey. It's why they fear people like fucking, what's his name over in Australia? Avi Yemeni. They are scared of us. And so they fucking should be. Because at the end of the day, people shouldn't fear their governments. Governments should fear their people. And what they're doing with this invasion, because that's what it is they're trying to destroy the community. Because that's the one thing we all have. What allows people to form bonds with one another, to be able to integrate with one another? Community. It's what makes us. And it can be what also breaks us. And our governments are single-handedly attempting to basically grab a hammer and basically keep at it until they get us to break down. They are going the whole 9 yards with this shit. And it's not going to stop. They did try to bring in an online harms bill, which basically, if you spoke negatively about the government, you'd get up to 18 years in prison. And I joked about this many, many times, and I still fucking do, because you have to laugh, because otherwise you cry. And believe me, my bathroom's already filled to the brim with that fucking shit. Anyway, you have to appreciate that some murderers don't even get 18 years in prison in the worst case scenarios. Like, they go fucking, I don't know, they go around with a knife and they go around and stab someone, and then they get what? Sometimes 13 or 14 years in prison minimum. They say life, but generally speaking, it's not a guarantee. Whereas in America, at least life means life. And hell, there's even been hot debate about should they bring back the death penalty here in the UK, with Anne Widdecombe at the forefront. Yes, Anne Widdecombe, one of our few greats of this country at this point. She was actually advocating we need to bring that shit back. And frankly, I agree. We do a fucking great job getting rid of all the murderers, the rapists, the pedos, the gang rapists, the serial killers. Get rid of them all. Take out the trash. Our prisons are packed to the brim. And even worse is they predominantly become Muslim training camps, effectively. And again, the mainstream media won't tell you that. But Tommy Robinson has experienced that firsthand. Because he went to HMP Onley, as I've mentioned before, and he basically had literal shit thrown at him. What do they do about the people who are treating him like that? Fuck all. Because they know the Muslims run the prisons. Again, cold bitter truth. No one wants to accept it, but it is there. And now this mere notion that not only are they trying to conscript our youth to fight a war that has nothing to do with us, but they also want to make it so that we cannot speak out against this negative system, and they're basically cracking down on the whistleblowing journalism that we're trying to do, showcasing some of this bullshit that's going on. So they're basically trying to silence the other side, which, as said, if you look it up in the dictionary, fascism, and I know I'm being rough here, but generally speaking, it is when you are effectively trying to stop the opposition from being able to have a platform to be able to oppose your views. That is unequivocal fascism. And our government is guilty of it. And in the meantime, we have traitors, like Rishi-Washy Sunak, laughing at the fact there are people who can't pay their fucking bills. And even worse, some of them even laugh at the fact that our veterans are living on the streets homeless. How long do you think they'd be laughing if we put them on the streets? I don't think they'd be laughing for 5 seconds, let alone 5 fucking minutes. They would not last a second out in real life London, where predominantly black gangs, again, not for racism, but statistically it is a fact. Don't take my word for it, just look up knife crime in London and you'll see that it is predominantly done, even black on black, I believe. But my point is, they would not survive 5 seconds out in the real world. Hell, they've even been saying, we need bodyguards to protect us, on the back of that fucking dickhead, what's his face? Abidi, I think it is, the acid attacker in Clapham. Mohammed Azidi or something like that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the twat who is being dismissed as, oh, he's dead because they can't find them. No, you're not dismissing this shit. You, as the police of London, should have been doing your fucking job and had people on the beat. If we had police on the fucking beat, I guarantee you, he would not have made it 5 miles. Hell, he wouldn't have even made it 500 fucking meters out of Clapham. Because police would be all over him if we had the standards of ye oldie days. Instead, we've accepted any old Tom, Dick and Harry, where instead of wearing those proper full-size helmets, we've got them wearing fucking baseball caps. And they expect us to take the police seriously. Also bearing in mind the fact the police have been often screwing over the British public. Let that sink in. And I need to dunk this. This is long overdue. God, fuck me, I need this. I mean, you try having 2 hours sleep and see if you can stay up. Anyway, the police are a joke. They're saying, oh, we presume he's dead, because they can't be fucked to search for him. Do you think they'd say that if it was a white person doing this shit to a Muslim, though? I don't think you even need 3 guesses for that shit. If it was a white person doing this to a Muslim woman, 1, they would stop at nothing to find this man. 2, they would utilise all the resources they had in their policing services to find this man. And 3, they wouldn't even stop the Muslim community from wanting to knock the guy out and kick 7 shades of shit out of him. Guarantee that. Because our police, as we all know, are 2-tier policing wankers. And we're supposed to accept the bullshit that they're spoon-feeding us. I don't think so. I'm not taking any fucking shit that they're spoon-feeding me. I'd sooner spit it back in their face. The same people who want to silence the other side. The unequivocal fascists. I will link Reverend's original video in the description below. Because he does a far better job of explaining this shit than I ever will. But at the end of the day, I think a violent revolution needs to happen. I don't want it, as I said. I've said this many, many times, and I will say it here again. I don't want a violent revolution, but I think we need a violent revolution. I don't condone violence, but at this point, I completely understand if it needs to happen to reclaim this country for the greater good. And I'm not talking about the greater good in hot fucking fuzz, but I'm talking the actual good and the health of this country. And I will completely understand, not sympathise, but I will completely understand if anybody goes down that route. Because something's got to give. It's either this country's going to give way to the illegals and our corrupt government, or our government is going to give way to the indigenous people of Britain who want their country back. There are going to have to be some tough decisions made. Because at the end of the day, I don't see this country lasting another 5 years. I probably don't even see it lasting another 3 if we continue down this path. Immigration at all-time high. Knife crime at all-time high. Police not even remotely looked at as a force to be reckoned with or even respected. An army that is being destroyed from the inside out. And we are looking like the fucking laughing stock of the world. Back in the old days, they feared us. They all feared us. We brought this whole world together, the whole British Empire. Now, we'd be lucky if we could even take over fucking London, let alone the world. We need to reform our police, we need to reform our army, and get the standards back in the pair of them. We need to get rid of the lib lab con first past to the post bullshit, because the first past to the can't even get the words out now. The first past the post system is fundamentally flawed, because it basically means that one person could have fucking 10,000 votes, and the other one has 301. But if their 301 get through first, game over. The other side automatically loses by default. Need I say more? That needs to go. There's also the Muslim MPs of the Labour Party that have repeatedly been getting done in for postal electorate fraud. Anne-Marie Waters covered this rather well, and I only wish I could find her videos on this, because quite frankly they'd be very insightful to what a lot of these MPs do. And what saddens me more than anything as well, back onto the point of the army. The army's even saying that they're willing to get rid of our fucking Christian heritage to try and get these people to join the army. No! That Christian foundation is everything that we are. You may not believe in Christianity, but our country was held on Judeo-Christian beliefs. And the moment you take that away from us, you take away the very identity of being a British person. They're not willing to get rid of the flags of terrorist organisations or arrest people who are dressed in full terrorist gear, hijabs and everything, but they're more than willing to arrest someone for flying the British fucking flag. And if we dare to shout that the Palestinians are racist, there was even one person who had a woman come into his house, which she's actually not allowed to do. She wasn't even invited in, so she's already trespassing into the person's house. And basically, she tried to silence him, in a nutshell. Ordinary man going to work, trying to silence him for calling the Palestinians racist. I could think of a lot worse. I think he was being very kind to them right now. I could think of a whole bunch of other things I could say about Palestine. Killing children. And I'll rest my case there. But anyway, I want to know what you think. Do you think this is dire straits for Britain? The idea that they now want to silence whistleblowing journalism? Or do you think it's all right that they do this and potentially get rid of the only platform we have to be able to oppose this fascistic government? Yeah, I may have biased views, but you know what? At least my head's screwed on. Though that being said, I might have to give it a couple more screws before I have it fully straightened out again. But at the end of the day, our government wants to silence us. They want to stop us from opposing them, and they want to destroy the very identity of Britain. And for that, I say we fight them to the very last man. And remember, if they say, we'll bring the army in, bear in mind they've already said, we need a citizens' army. Yeah, wonder whose side the army will be on. Bearing in mind, I reckon a lot of people out there in the United Kingdom who hate this government probably have secret access to guns. Because gun laws don't actually stop people from getting guns. All it does is it makes it harder for those who legitimately want to have a gun, I don't know, if they're fucking training to be in the police or whatever, from getting a gun. While those who are criminals who just want to get a hold of a gun will get a hold of a gun. It's just a matter of when. So make of that what you will. But a lot of these people do have access to guns. And if we do overthrow this government, please make sure we get a Second Amendment in place, like the Americans, so they cannot take away our guns again. We made that mistake once. Do not make it a second time. As the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. At the end of the day, we must fight this. And what we also need more than anything is a party that fundamentally cares for the well-being of Britain. I don't even fucking care if it's patriotic alternative. Any alternative is better than the current government we've got right now, though I've got my dice on reform. Whether it's the right thing or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that any other party that isn't Lib, Lab, Con or Green will only be a benefit to this country. Fight this. Tooth and nail. Make them work for it. We must stop at nothing to reclaim our identity, our country, our borders, everything. Because if we don't, we lose this country. It's as simple as that. And I, for one, will not roll over while my country gets fed to the liberal dogs. My name's Dabima, also known as Apathorex, and I am, as always, very bad news for our crooked police and government, and of course, those sheeple brainwashed by left-wing propagandist media who have no consideration other than their own, who want to see us literally eat the shit of the religion of peace. Peace. Because they are just a death cult at the end of the day. Islam is a parasite that, like a tumour, needs to be cut out of British society because it has done nothing but harm us. Oppose everything the government is doing. Everything. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. And most importantly, fuck the government and fuck the police.